Ever wished you had a tireless assistant? One that could write amazing marketing stuff, figure out all that complicated financial data, and handle customer questions all day and all night.
Sounds pretty dreamy, right?
Well, that's kind of the whole idea behind LLMs, large language models.
And it's really fascinating to see how businesses are using them.
Yeah, we're going to dive into a whole bunch of reports and case studies today. They show how LLMs are changing, well, everything. Marketing, supply chains, you name it.
Yeah, we're talking about the tech that powers things like ChatGPT.
Exactly. But for business.
And these LLMs use deep learning to, well, they understand, generate, and even mess with human language, just like we do.
But, I mean, they can process information so much faster than we can, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's just the beginning. They're trained on huge amounts of text data, mountains of it. And that helps them really get all the little details of human language.
So it's like they've read every book ever written.
Kind of. It's like giving them this massive library of knowledge. They learn all the grammar rules, the different meanings of words, even like the emotional tone of writing.
It's crazy to think they can, like, analyze and interpret information that way.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes them so powerful is their architecture. Think of it like a blueprint for how an LLM thinks.
Okay, I'm following.
One common approach is what we call the encoder-decoder structure.
Encoder, decoder.
Yeah, so the encoder part breaks down the input text, like what you give it, it figures out the meaning, and then the decoder uses that meaning to come up with a response.
So it's like two teams working together, one to understand and one to respond.
Exactly, a great way to put it.
Mm.
And then there's this thing called the attention mechanism. It lets LLMs focus on the important parts of a text, kind of like how we read.
So they don't just see a bunch of words, they see the whole picture.
Exactly. It's like they can read between the lines, understand the context,
Okay.
and to make it even more impressive, they have these layers, multiple layers of processing. Each one builds on the one before it.
So, like, layer by layer, they're getting smarter.
You got it. They can understand more and more complex language.
So how do we even know if they're doing a good job? How do we measure their performance?
Well, we have these specific ways to evaluate them. One is called perplexity.
Perplexity.
Yeah, it basically measures how well the model can guess the next word in a sequence.
So, like, if it's good at guessing, it understands the language better.
Exactly. Lower perplexity means it's less perplexed. Another one is BLEU.
BLEU.
Yeah, it compares the model's output to human-written text.
So, like, is it writing like a real person would?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is super useful for things like translation, where you need things to be accurate and sound natural.
So it's a lot of science to make sure these LLMs are actually effective.
Oh, for sure. And it all leads to this big goal, changing how businesses work.
Now that's what I'm interested in. How are they actually being used in the real world?
Well, one area that's really being transformed is customer experience.
Okay, yeah, customer service can be a pain.
Right. But LLMs are powering this whole new generation of chatbots and virtual assistants. And they're so much better than the old clunky ones.
We've all talked to those chatbots that make you want to pull your hair out.
I know, right? But imagine a chatbot that actually gets your question, no matter how you ask it.
Okay, that would be nice.
And it gives you an instant answer. One that's tailored to you and your history with the company.
Like a personal customer service rep. That's available 24/7.
You got it.
Are companies actually doing this?
Yeah. Imagine a telecom company using a chatbot to instantly fix billing problems or internet issues.
No more waiting on hold forever.
Or think about a virtual assistant on a shopping site, one that not only helps you find stuff, but actually suggests outfits based on what you've been looking at.
So it's like having a stylist right there in your computer. That's pretty cool.
But are there any downsides? I mean, what about data security with all this?
That's a great question. Data security is super important. These chatbots are dealing with sensitive information, Companies have to be really careful. So, like, extra careful, more than usual.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And accuracy is another thing. LLMs can still make mistakes, or they might give answers that sound right but are totally wrong.
So you're saying they're not perfect?
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
We call those mistakes hallucinations.
Hallucinations. So they're like seeing things that aren't there?
Kind of. Which is why humans still need to be involved, even with all this fancy tech.
Makes sense. What about making sure these chatbots represent the company's values and brand?
Oh, that's super important too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want a chatbot for a luxury brand using slang, right?
Yeah, that would be weird.
It's all about finding the right tone and style.
So LLMs can really help customer service, but companies need to be smart about it.
Exactly. And speaking of being smart, LLMs are also shaking things up in content creation.
Wait, really? How does that work?
LLMs can actually come up with content ideas write catchy headlines, even to draft whole articles or social media posts.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
and they do it way faster than a human ever could.
It's like having a superpowered writer on your team.
That's a great way to put it. And they're not just fast, they can also analyze what works well with audiences.
So they help you figure out how to get more people to see your content.
Exactly. They can even suggest ways to make it better, more engaging.
So they're like content strategists, too.
Pretty much. We're seeing companies cut their content production time in half using tools like GPT-3.
Wow.
And that means their writers can focus on the more creative stuff.
Like the really important stuff, right?
Exactly.
Any examples of companies doing this well?
Well, I know one marketing agency that's using GPT-3 to create first drafts of everything.
Yeah.
Blog posts, social media, everything.
And their human writers take it from there.
Yeah, they do all the editing, refining the message, adding that human touch.
Because LLMs can't really do that, right?
Not yet, anyway.
It's amazing that this is already happening. But wait, you mentioned supply chain management earlier? I mean, how do LLMs even work in that world?
It might seem strange, but supply chains are all about managing information.
True. Keeping track of everything, knowing what's coming in, what's going out.
It's a lot. And LLMs are great at processing and analyzing tons of data.
So they can help make sense of all that complexity.
Exactly. They can analyze things like past sales, weather patterns, even what people are saying on social media, and use all that to predict what's going to happen.
So instead of just guessing, they can see into the future.
Sort of. They can give you a much clearer picture of what to expect.
That's pretty powerful.
Imagine an LLM predicting a huge demand for winter coats. Because it knows a cold snap is coming, the company can then make sure they have enough coats in stock.
Oh, so no more disappointed customers.
Right. And it's not just about predicting demand. LLMs can also figure out the best ways to ship things, taking into account traffic, fuel prices, all of that.
So they're like logistics experts.
Exactly. It's a game changer for businesses that need to get things from point A to point B efficiently. And they're being used in other areas too, like data analysis and decision-making.
This is all so fascinating. LLMs are becoming a part of almost every industry, aren't they?
And we're just getting started. But before we go any further, there's one really important thing we need to talk about. The human element.
Ah, yes. With all this talk about AI, you have to wonder if robots are going to take over the world.
It's a fair question. But I think the future of work with LLMs is all about collaboration.
So not robots versus humans, but robots and humans working together.
Exactly. LLMs can do all the boring, repetitive stuff, and that frees up humans to focus on the creative, strategic work.
Using the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for companies to invest in training and upskilling their employees.
So they're ready to work with these new AI tools.
Exactly. The companies that will be successful in the future are the ones that keep learning and adapting.
So it's all about empowering people to be the best they can be, but with the help of AI.
Well said. Now, are you ready for some real-world examples? I have some case studies that really show how powerful this technology is.
I'm all ears. Let's hear about how companies are using LLMs to do amazing things. So tell me about these companies using LLMs to solve real problems.
Well, one that really stands out is this big e-commerce company.
Okay.
They were having a really tough time handling all the customer questions, especially during the busy seasons.
I can imagine.
Their customer support team was totally swamped.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
rough. So how did they use LLMs to fix that?
Well, they decided to create a chatbot, but not just any chatbot.
Okay, so a special chatbot.
Exactly. They got some AI experts to fine-tune an LLM specifically for their business.
Oh, I see.
This chatbot could understand all sorts of questions about products, track orders, explain returns, all that stuff.
Sounds pretty advanced. I bet it took a lot of work to train it to do all that.
Oh, yeah. They had to be really careful with the data they used to train it. They used actual conversations with customers to teach it how to respond in a natural, helpful way.
So it sounds like a real person.
That's the goal. And they hooked it up to their other systems so the chatbot could actually personalize its responses.
So it knows who you are and what you've ordered before.
Exactly. It's all about making the customer feel like they're talking to a real person, someone who knows what they're doing.
That makes sense. Did it work?
It was a huge success. Their response time went way down, and they could handle a ton more inquiries without needing a human to step in.
So everyone's happy, customers get faster service, and the company saves time and money.
Exactly. It was a win-win. Their customer satisfaction scores went up, and their costs went down.
Amazing. It's incredible how LLMs can make such a big difference.
Yeah, it really is. But it's important to remember that LLMs aren't perfect. This company still had to deal with data security since the chatbot was handling all this personal information.
Right, that's a big one.
They had to put in some serious security measures like encryption and stuff.
So they made sure the data was safe.
Absolutely. And they also had to deal with accuracy issues. At first, the chatbot sometimes gave wrong or unhelpful information.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but they came up with a clever solution. They set up a system where their human support agents could flag any problems.
So the humans were still involved?
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
definitely. And then the developers could use that feedback to, like, retrain the LLM and make it better.
So it's a constant learning process.
Exactly. It shows how important it is to have humans in the loop, even with all this fancy AI. Now, let's switch gears a bit. We talked about finance earlier, remember?
Yeah, using LLMs for things like fraud detection.
Right. And for risk assessment. I have a great example from an investment bank.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Finance seems like such a complicated area to use AI in.
It is. But this bank figured out how to use LLMs to make their financial predictions way better.
Their predictions about what?
About the markets,
Yeah.
stocks and stuff. They were having trouble making accurate predictions because there's just so much data out there and the markets are always changing.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
So they trained an LLM on this massive data set.
What kind of data?
All kinds. Past stock performance, economic indicators, news articles, even what people were saying on social media.
Wait, social media?
Yeah. They wanted to capture all the little things that could affect the markets. And it worked. The LLM could see patterns and trends that human analysts missed.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. Their forecasts became way more accurate.
So they were basically able to predict the future.
Not exactly predict, but they could make much better guesses. And that helped them make smarter investment decisions for their clients. Their portfolio returns went up.
So everyone made more money.
Exactly. But of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. One of the biggest challenges was figuring out how to interpret all that unstructured data, especially from the news and social media.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, how do you teach an LLM to understand sarcasm or irony?
Exactly. Sentiment analysis can be really tricky. So they started feeding the LLM manually labeled financial news and social media posts.
So they were teaching it how to read the mood.
Pretty much. And that helped to get better at understanding financial sentiment.
Smart.
They also put in place some really strict checks to make sure the LLM's predictions were reliable.
So they were being careful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In finance, you have to be. And it all paid off. They got a real edge over their competitors by using LLMs in a smart and responsible way.
It's amazing how many different ways LLMs can be used.
It really is. We're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to come.
Speaking of the future, what do you think is next for LLMs? What should we be keeping an eye on?
Well, the field is moving so fast, it's hard to say for sure. But one thing is for sure. They're going to get even more powerful. We're talking LLMs that can handle even more complex tasks and write even more like a human.
Wow. So even smarter than they are now.
Exactly. And they're going to become more accessible too. Cloud computing is making it easier and cheaper for any business to use LLMs.
So it's not just for the big companies anymore.
Nope. Even small businesses and startups can get in on the action. We're also seeing a lot of innovation in, like, industry-specific LLMs.
Industry-specific. What's that?
So instead of using a general LLM, companies are training them on data that's specific to their industry.
So like an LLM for healthcare.
Exactly. They feed it medical journals, patient records, all that stuff.
So it becomes a medical expert?
Kind of. It gets really good at understanding all the medical jargon and terminology.
So it can give better answers, right?
Exactly. It's amazing to see all the different ways LLMs are being used.
Yeah.
But as we push the limits of what they can do, we need to make sure we're using them responsibly and ethically.
That's a good point. We don't want to create a robot apocalypse or anything.
Exactly. That's something we can talk more about in the last part of our deep dive.
Perfect. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical stuff to real-world examples and even what's coming next. Now let's finish up by discussing how businesses can navigate this whole AI revolution. All right, so we've talked about the potential of LLMs, looked at some really cool examples, and even peeked into the future of this tech, but let's get practical. How can businesses actually prepare for this whole AI revolution and make sure they don't get left behind?
Well, the first thing is to really understand what LLMs are, how they work, the nuts and bolts.
So, like, don't just ignore it and hope it goes away.
Exactly. The more you know about LLMs, the better you'll be able to see the opportunities and also the challenges.
So knowledge is power. What's next?
Once you have a good grasp of the basics, You need to figure out where LLMs can actually help your business.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think about your biggest problems, the things that slow you down, where you need more accuracy or you need to do things on a larger scale.
So it's about finding the right tool for the right job.
Exactly. Maybe it's automating some boring tasks, or maybe it's improving customer service or creating better content.
Or even like making your supply chain run smoother.
Right, exactly. It's about finding those areas where LLMs can actually make a difference.
Got it. So you figure out where you need help, then what?
Then you need to pick the right LLM solution. There are a ton of them out there, and they're not all created equal.
So you have to shop around a little bit?
You could say that. Some are great at writing, some are better at analyzing data, some are good at translating languages.
This is where it might be good to have an expert help you out, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. An AI specialist or a consultant can be a huge help.
Okay, so you learn the basics, you figure out what you need, you find the right tool. Anything else?
Well, you need to make sure that whatever LLM you choose can actually work with your existing systems.
Right, it has to fit in with everything else you're doing.
Exactly. And of course, data security is always super important. You need to have really strong safeguards in place to protect all that sensitive information.
That's a good point. What about the people? I mean, we've talked about how LLMs can automate jobs. Does that mean robots are taking over?
It's a valid question, but I don't think so. I think it's more about collaboration.
So humans and machines working together.
Exactly. LLMs can handle the repetitive, boring stuff, which frees up humans to focus on the more interesting strategic work.
So it's like having a really helpful assistant.
That's a great way to put it. But that means companies need to invest in training their employees so they know how to work with these new tools.
So they're not afraid of the robots.
Exactly. The companies that will succeed in the future are the ones that embrace change and keep learning new things.
It's all about adapting, right?
Absolutely. And one last thing. Don't forget to measure your results.
So like keep track of how well the LLM is doing.
Exactly. Are things getting more efficient?
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing improvements in accuracy, customer satisfaction, revenue? If not, maybe you need to adjust your approach.
So it's all about constant improvement. You got it. The companies that are always learning and experimenting, those are the ones that are going to thrive in this new world of AI.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of LLMs. We've talked about how they work, how they're being used, and what the future holds. What's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
That LLMs are incredibly powerful tools. They can really change the way businesses operate, but you can't just throw technology at a problem and expect it to magically disappear.
Right.
You have to be strategic, think things through carefully, and never forget that LLMs are tools. They can help us, but they can't replace human creativity and ingenuity.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Human intelligence working with artificial intelligence.
Exactly. If we can do that, the possibilities are endless.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of LLMs. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring.